Welcome to the Hasn't Been 3 Days podcast with your hosts, Justin and BJ, and we talk about 3-day-old news, sports, and whatever else we want to talk about. You, the MVP listener, you listen in, you laugh, you might cry, you might get mad, but if you have to hate on our takes, just wait until it's been 3 days. So we're back for a new season. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 1. Justin, we've got some critiques to deal with.
Uh-oh.
So,
what did we do wrong?
We have failed in the last few episodes to talk about our 3 days in review. So we're gonna start there because we've taken a few weeks off. So Justin, tell me about how your last few weeks has been.
Last few weeks. Well, here in Nebraska, school started for the kids. Brenton started playing football. Pretty much nothing else has happened, just life. We kind of relaxed. We haven't, no vacations, nothing yet. We'll be going somewhere. We're going to Colorado here in a month or so. So planning that out. Really nothing much. Not as big as news as yours and more exciting things. I mean,
No, I don't think so. Last few weeks, I mean, we took, school started for one of our kids. We took Emma to college, and so she's at college, and today was her first day of class, and so that was.
See, that's big news.
Cool. That is big news. Yeah. We got her moved. We spent about 5 days in Idaho, and it was a good trip. So we had a good time there. So that was good. But we're ready to go, ready to move forward. The other kids start next week. Heidi's been back working at the school again instead of working from home mainly. So yeah, we're back in the swing. So it's good.
Good deal. Yeah. It's, it's status quo for us. It's the same for us. This fall gets busy with Brenton's football every Sunday and football practice every night of the week, it seems like. So
yeah, you said he just had his first game this weekend.
He did. Yeah, they won like 40 to, I don't know, it was 44-0 or something like that.
Wow.
I don't know. They kind of took it to them. They had a punt return, which I hadn't seen a punt return in I almost said midget, but I meant Lincoln Youth Football.
Junior football, youth football,
yeah. I've never seen a punt return in those before. Like a legitimate one. Like blocking was perfect, right up the sideline, but yeah. No, Brenton got in for a few carries, all positive yards, and the joke was that last year I kept on calling him speed bump, so because he wasn't really tackling, he's just his first year, he kind of get that out of the way, and
you got to get used to being hit. Yep.
Yeah, and he said this year he's like, Dad, my goal is to not have you yell speed bump while I'm playing, and so that worked out really well. So
yeah, you sent me those videos. I mean, those were some strong carries, and that's going to be good. He's going to have a good season if he keeps up and keeps turning those legs. So,
yeah, so
that's awesome.
So that's good. Yeah, no sports for Bree this fall. Her sports in the spring, so she's just getting involved and secretly on the worship team for the youth. So she won't let me watch or listen. So we'll see what comes of that.
Yeah, especially since you're a sound guy.
Especially since I'm a sound guy.
Well, good. Well, before we get into the season and the content and introduce everything that's happening, it's going to be a little bit different season for our listeners this year and this season. So bear with us. If you don't like it, then yeah, whatever. But we're
give it 3 days and come back.
Give it 3 days. Give it 3 episodes, and we'll see where you're at. But we're calling it the season of parts, and we're gonna talk about some different parts of life, probably a little bit more serious content, but this first part that we're going to be talking about is what we're labeling and entitling church hurt. And we've been talking about this just because of the season that we've been through in the last couple of years. And I'm going to say this, I was going to say the four of us. Well, let me introduce our guests for tonight. Our guests are our wives tonight. So we have Becky joining us and Heidi joining us tonight. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
You know, a lot of our guests get applauses, so our producer was kind of slacking on that one. I apologize.
Oh, hang on a second here.
No kidding.
Hang on. We introduce Heidi and Becky. Okay.
That's not like a polite golf clap. That's
Yeah.
Golf claps. They're good.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, no, I was sleeping on the job.
we're having our wives join us tonight because of the season we've been through and starting this season off with this title in the church hurt. I want to just give a disclaimer. Church hurt is a label that we put on something that a lot of people can experience in different ways. And so in no way is this podcast going to give any sort of scientific facts of this is the right or the wrong version of what this means. We're not professionals. We're not in this to cure anybody or anything like that. But maybe what this is about is us sharing our story where we have found hurt in a place that we wanted it to be safer than it was. And we've lumped this in that label. The goal in this season is to have some professionals on that will talk about church hurt in a different way, in a different light. But tonight and these first couple episodes, as we get into this, is more of our story and other people's personal stories of how they've been hurt in the church. And so that's my disclaimer. It's not facts like in the sense of we're trying to prove a point. We're just sharing a story. So we know everybody has a story, and we welcome the feedback. If you've got advice, if you've got tips, if you've got encouragement, or maybe it just opens up a story for you to share, share that with us. 3dayoldpodcast@gmail.com would be the best way to get in touch with us. And we'd be happy to share that, share with you in this season. So there's my disclaimer. And what I wanted to start with tonight is just allowing all four of us really, and this can be similar as we talk through this a little bit. First thing we need to do is really kind of get a ground basis for what is church hurt. So what I'd like us to do is just each of us define for ourselves what that term really means for us personally. Who wants to go first? Anybody? Volunteers?
Who's going to get voluntold right away? Well, I'll just say that, like, church hurt, to me, I don't know what the best way. To me, it's just like when, and this is unfair too, because I think we kind of put people up on a pedestal, and we feel like that they're to support you and go along with your decisions or your ideas. And then when they don't, you feel like, and this is not so much me personally, but others too, but they just feel like, oh, they're not being listened to, and it starts driving them away for some of the dumbest reasons sometimes. And it's unfair because some of those leaders in the church that you look up to, or, when it comes to just anybody within the leadership team, or just anybody who's been around the church, you just feel like you failed them. I sometimes, I feel like anything that I do, not that anybody's looking up to me, is I don't want anything that I do that affects anybody's walking away from the church and being hurt, and how that looks. And in the very small light that I have, I don't have a title or anything, but my face has been around long enough, unfortunately, for people that they have to see me. But I know I'm kind of babbling a little bit, but
well, that's a good groundwork. Becky, how would you define church hurt?
For me, I guess I would define it as really something where you've had this experience and you have been hurt by someone in the church. It may be a leader or even a pastor, a previous pastor, or anything like that. Just anyone who you were expecting them to, kind of like you had said, BJ, already, kind of expecting to be safe in this place that we call church, and it's supposed to be kind of held up to a higher standard where we love and accept people, and that doesn't always happen because of a variety of things, largely partially because we're all human, but just like I expect to go to church, and regardless of what I'm wearing, I expect to be accepted and not judged and looked at for what I look like in my appearance. Just something as simple as that, to much more involved, deeper level things, just based on like just a variety of circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I mean, there's definitely a range. There's a lot that can fit into this dynamic, if you will, that we label as church hurt. And like you just said, I think that really gives a good take on the different
levels of
the different levels. Yeah, Heidi, what is your definition of church hurt?
Well, I think collaboratively what we've said, like I think Becky really nailed it. There's different layers to it. There's different levels. I think it can be even just the reality or the disillusionment of what you've believed people to be. And when you're in the church, like we just talked about, the safety that you think is there, that you put your trust in people, and whether it's something that you whether it's something you personally have gone through, you've seen. I think we can all say, even if we haven't personally experienced church hurt per se, we know of people who have experienced it on different levels. And it's the expectation that there's going to be a response based on what you believe. I mean, for me personally, I think like who I know Jesus to be. And when we say, well, our job is to model and exude that, then you expect a response that's close to who he is. And when it's so different from, when it's so off and so different from that, it's just that the hurt that occurs, the disappointment that occurs, in some cases, there's trauma that occurs because of it. And it can occur at, different levels, like Becky was saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I think just to give, as we start this off with this definition, and it's kind of a loose definition that we're talking about, it'll unfold and be unpacked as we talk about some different things here and different topics. But to me, church hurt is those places where we feel ultimately that an expectation has not been met. That expectation could come from a person, could come from pastor or leadership. It could come from the person sitting next to us in the pew. It could come from a certain situation or something that's played out, something that didn't go our way, or something that we felt should have been handled differently. And so a certain situation that we feel passionate about, but that same passion isn't there from a decision maker or however that situation may have played out. It can also come from rules and regulations or doctrinal hurt, where we don't just match up with what we've been trained and taught our whole life. There's so many different caveats to this, and I want to be careful that we don't just put everything in a label of church hurt when maybe there's other layers to it. And we'll unpack that as this season goes on. But thank you for sharing that. Let me just talk to you and Justin and Becky. Tell us a little bit about your history within the church and what brought you to church, how long you've been in the church. And then I'm curious to this question as a follow-up. How many churches have you attended in your entire life as far as regular attendance?
Well, I'll go first. I mean, I just remember going to this. My parents brought me to Connecting Point or Lincoln First Church back in the day when I was younger and grew up in the church. And was there and still there. Besides Becky and I's brief time of, I don't know how long that lasted. Becky, do you remember how long it was that we didn't go to our church for, I don't even remember if it was a year and a half, 2 years?
Before you go into that, just to clarify, you said Connecting Point or Lincoln First Church.
Well, Lincoln First Church then turned into Connecting Point Church.
Right, but is this affiliated with the denomination or is this?
Oh, Nazarene.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Sorry,
go ahead. I just
Nazarene through and through.
Okay.
Yep. That's right. But yeah, we've always gone to Nazarene churches, and when we lived in Kansas City, we attended multiple churches.
Really, just two of them that we did regularly.
But we church hopped.
We church hopped quite a bit because we struggled to find that place where we did feel connected to, more than just the two of us. The connection with the whole community of believers, and so yeah, there was really just two churches that we spent that I would consider regular attendance throughout that time.
And the first one, they could fall underneath that label as church hurt. You remember the reason why we left that one church? Because
I do vividly remember.
Because we attended multiple months. I mean, it was, I don't know, maybe 6-7 months. We sat in the same spot all the time.
Every Sunday.
And it was 1 week where we had been to like the groups for luncheons and everything, kind of get to know everybody. And then it was one Sunday where the same people that we sat by all the time, we recognized them. We said hi to them. They just like, oh, you guys are you guys visitors.
They would, they introduced themselves to us as if we hadn't just been sitting next to them for 6 months.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, well, I guess that's not our church.
Guess that's not for us.
Yeah. So, but then, not just that's just part of trying to find a church, and it was discouraging because you felt like you wanted to be connected, and that probably could have been something where, we, as young, being young, we probably could have worked through it, but when you live in Kansas City, you have all these options, and you have this variety of places that you want to go. You can go down 3 more blocks and find another Nazarene church, it seems like. So
especially because we lived in Olathe, and I attended a Nazarene university. Yeah. So we were automatically connected to, a whole variety of options for church attendance. And so that's when Justin said, we kind of church hopped. It was, we just felt like there was, if one didn't fit, then there was plenty of other options to choose from.
Yeah, for sure. So really, just to recap, Justin, I mean, you were kind of brought in by your parents, raised in Lincoln First Church of the Nazarene, turned into Connecting Point. You went to college, followed Becky there. Becky, tell us just a brief history. I don't want to lead people. I don't want to lead you in your answer, but tell us about your growing up. What brought you to church in the first place? Where it was at? How many churches have you regularly attended?
Sure. So I was brought to church by my mom. She found the church, and it took some doing because of the weird names that they had for street names in Kearney, Nebraska. And we attended for a while, and then every Sunday my dad would go and get donuts and drop me and my mom off at church, and he would not attend with us until sassy little Becky realized that donuts look like more fun than church. And so Dad had to start coming to church because I wanted to go stick around for donuts. So that's what led me to that church, the Nazarene Church in Kearney, Nebraska. I was there then. I mean, I was like 3 years old or something like that. I was very young. Attended the church there in Kearney until I went to Mid-America, and then attended those 2 churches at Mid-America, and then now I'm at Connecting Point, previously known as Lincoln First Church of the Nazarene. So all of the churches I've attended have been affiliated with the Nazarene Church.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Heidi, tell us a little bit about your upbringing. How did you end up in church? What church was it? How many churches have you regularly attended throughout your life?
Well, I've never not been in church. I grew up going to the Hillsborough Nazarene Church, which is the church that my parents still go to, and my grandpa pastored for a time. That's what brought my mom over here. And my dad and my other grandpa helped build that church, the physical building, and attended there, went to school, went to NNU, and I went to college church, I went to First Church, kind of bounced around while I was over there, and then came back and started going to that church again, was back at Hillsborough, and then left and was in Newburgh, Nazarene, another Nazarene church. And then while we were there for, I think we were there for 2-ish years, things kind of started falling apart, and we ended up at not a Nazarene church, ended up in the Covenant Church, the Covenant denomination in Dundee, and was there for a bit, and then ended up at the McMinnville Covenant Church, and then a community church for a time, and then ended up back at Church on the Hill in McMinnville for a few years. So, yeah, I've had a mix, but my family is very Nazarene. I have an uncle who was a Nazarene DS. And like I said, my grandpa was a Nazarene pastor, and my brother was for a time, and so it's definitely in our blood.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to highlight that and ask that question specifically, because it does give you, the listener, an idea of our perspective. And we have to be honest and say that our perspective is a little bit jaded to a certain branch, because that's what we've all been raised in, that branch.
Yeah.
I'm not in any way trying to lead us down a place where we sit here and bash any sort of denomination or branch. That's not what this is about. So, but I wanted you guys, the listener, to have that understanding. I myself have come at church differently than you guys have. The 3 of you have been raised primarily in one church by your parents in one form or another. You went to school and you back in that church. You guys, Heidi and I, jumped around recently, but for the most part, your upbringing in church has been the same.
Yeah.
And for me to answer the question, I haven't ever answered this question in my own life. How many churches have I attended?
Let me ask you the question. How many churches have you attended, BJ Thelander?
So I went to church because my dad's a pastor, and I started going to church. The stories are told that I was on the second row when I was 3 days old, and in the revival and all this. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I've been told. So, so my dad was a pastor in the Nazarene Church denomination. So, How many churches? Let me see. You might need some music.
Hang on. Do you think we can name them?
Sure. Let's go through that. Let's see how you can name them.
Well, okay. Did it start out in Washington, Iowa?
Washington, Iowa is where I was born. Yep.
Okay.
And that's closed now, by the way. But go ahead. Washington, Iowa. Yep.
Becky, you might remember some of these stories too, but did it go to Ray?
Ray after that, yep.
And then Pueblo.
Ray, Colorado, then Pueblo, Colorado, yep.
And then Lincoln.
Then Lincoln.
And then Wichita.
Yep.
Well, I'm trying to keep you different from your parents, but because yeah. So then Wichita, then you moved to Kansas City. Well, no, so hang on a second. What was that town north of Wichita?
Well, we didn't. Salina.
They had that cheesesteak place that we like to go to.
Yeah, we did go. We lived in Salina, and we went.
Was there a Nazarene church there?
Two. Yeah, there were two. Yeah, we went to the Nazarene church there.
Let's see here.
Are somebody counting these? I don't even know.
6 or 7.
Okay.
And then I think, then to Kansas City to Living Hope.
Yeah.
And then Iberia?
Nope. Pittsfield,
then Iberia, then, yes. Then down to Oklahoma.
Yep.
And then to Pittsfield.
Correct.
And then to Oregon. Yep. Hey, look at that.
Nice job.
Good job.
Let's find out how many of those times Justin moved BJ there.
Hey,
all of them, and Becky. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, most of them you did. Yeah, so those are the Nazarene churches that I've attended. We're probably up to 9, I think, is what.
I think it's 9. Yeah.
And so then after that, we've attended a couple different churches in the last couple years. And we are currently attending a non-Nazarene church in Salem. So let's just take a quick little break and plug. You've already plugged your church. Again, this is not a church bashing season. So if you need a church home, a Bible believing church home, Connecting Point in Lincoln, Nebraska is a great place to call home. And Pastor Doug and Pastor Brad and Brian and their staff do a great job. So here's a free plug for Connecting Point.
We will welcome you, no matter what you're wearing.
That's right.
Definitely.
So that's good. And Heidi and I currently attend Christian Missionary Alliance Church in Salem called Salem Alliance. And again, Heidi has had the opportunity in the last week to promote our church a few times to different people looking for a church home. It's the same. It's come and be welcome. Salem Alliance is a church that is striving to help the city find peace with God, and they are doing a great job with it. We love this church already. It's been a great resting place for us, but it's also been a great place to be challenged and fed. And so if you're in the Salem, Oregon area, and you need a church home, Salem Alliance is a great church there as well. So,
good job.
There we go.
And they can be found online too, because they have online church at both locations.
Yeah, that's right.
Same Alliance, yeah.
So you don't have to be in the area, really.
That's true. You don't have to be. So that gives us a little bit of history as to where we're coming from this episode. We also come at church hurt from a little different perspective, because all 4 of us have been on both sides of this in one way or another, because all 4 of us have been in leadership at some level of the church. And so when you're in leadership, church hurt occurs differently than when you're experiencing church hurt, I think. And I'm speaking to that from my own experiences, and we can get into that a little bit more. But does anybody want to just jump in there? What places in your life, as you reflect on the church, have caused you hurt?
I think more than anything, like situations that I think about for us is just some of the people that really disappoint us, or people who've used us for what they needed at the time. And we were just like, yeah, well, we'll do it. We'll help out because that's what we do. Or, you're part of the church. We'll help you, get your kids where you need. And then you just have people that take advantage of it. When Becky was going through, at the very first part of her cancer journey, had people, we had a lot of people that stepped up, and just God placed a lot of great people and situations to us. But then there's always the 1%. There's always the one person or persons that do something, and then you don't see anything come from it. You had all these intentions of raising money, and then you never see the money, and that's hurtful. It's like
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's just it's dumb, and those things are just like, over time you're just like, you're mad, but you're like, well, we didn't, that relationship, if it meant something, it wouldn't have happened. And hey, well, we just keep on saying, maybe that person needed the money more than we did. It's a blessing to them if they want to use Becky's situation to make it better for them. I don't know. So there's situations like that. Financial gain. Yeah. When people are starting out new businesses, they got to roll out stuff. So, but yeah, I think sometimes it's just, you get disappointed in people, and you think about who they are, and, they ask, hey, when you go to ask for them to help you to do, hey, pick up a kid or whatever, it's all like, oh, we can't do that. Sorry. And it's just like, okay, cool. And then as soon as that school year's done, or as soon as the situation's done, then they just stop talking to you. You're just like, okay, cool. I think Becky has this fun thing to say, and I say it now, is Becky will go through her Facebook over time. Whenever she's on Facebook, she says, well, I'll defriend you or take you off my friends list on Facebook, depending on if I'll talk to you in the grocery store. And so I use that analogy to say, well, I guess I just won't talk to you in the grocery store. And so
it's funny that you say that, because that's one area through this season, and we haven't got into it yet, but through this season that Heidi and I've been through with the church, and that my counselor, who I'm efforting to have on as a professional opinion on this topic, but he said to me the very same thing. He goes, when you've been hurt by somebody, doesn't matter if it's church or not, but in our case for this, it is. When you see them in the grocery store, living their life, doing their thing, just like we're going through life, and they've hurt you, just because you go to church together doesn't mean you have to stop in the aisle and catch up on life. You can say hi and be kind and move on. And that's what I think we lose sight of. And I know we'll unpack this more, but it's funny that you say that, because that's an analogy that my counselor has used as well. So,
yeah, I mean, there's just, and then from the standpoint of not so much, there are situations that as you get deeper and you're involved in the church, and just being in the position and the volunteering that I do at the church, and being a part of a group that is interconnected, I hear a lot of things of where people do get hurt, and then it's just like, you get frustrated because you know so much behind the scenes, and you know this, BJ. Like, I mean, everybody probably knows this from everybody here, is just that you hear these things, just like, you almost start getting frustrated and hurt about the situation when it doesn't really affect you, but it's something that could affect the church, and that seems to, I don't know really where I'm going with this, but it's just, you start getting into these situations where you start hearing things, and you want to try to control it, and then you get consumed by it sometimes.
Yeah, and that's a good way that gossip begins, because you again, the church is people, and it's made up of imperfect people. But as we do life together and we begin to get into community with one another, we start to care about these people, and we have relationships with them. And then, like, when they're hurt, we hurt for them. And there's that friendship, loyalty. We talk about that a lot here. Is just when you're loyal to somebody, you get sucked into their issues, and it's easy to put blinders on. And that's where I was going with this is I think so many people in the church have blinders on of what their expectation is of church people. And it's a false expectation. It's an expectation that will lead you to be hurt because people are people.
Mhm.
And that's a frustrating part because as you do life with people and you see your friends hurting, you want to take up arms and you want to hurt with them. But sometimes it's like you just said, Justin, there's so many things going on behind the scenes, or there's so many other factors involved that when we get our blinders on and we're in our lane, that we think that's the only thing that matters. And reality is there's so many more situations and people that are being influenced by the same situation or the same consequences of life.
I think sometimes we get in the church, I think I've been guilty of this, where we get a little backwards and we think that we're all good until we behave badly. And that's not biblical. We all have a sin nature. Every single one of us, we all fall short of the glory of God. And so I think we forget that. And then we're hurt because we're expecting people to be good, or like because we've been kind or good to someone that they owe that to us. I know I've struggled in that. Like I've been kind. Why would you not be that in return? And the reality is everybody's on different levels, but we all have that sin nature. And so if we don't really have the fruit of Jesus in our life and we don't really have a fruitful relationship with him, then yeah, we all have that bend towards reacting poorly to things too. I think we forget that.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, Becky.
No, you're fine. I was just going to add to, there was a time that I was really involved in the church and I was in a leadership role and just a volunteer leadership role, and was replaced by someone who was paid staff and just sort of came in, take over, and didn't really sort of recognize everything I had already done to set them up for success. And it's really all it needed to happen was some communication. And so I think that there's also a lot of times in everywhere, not just church, there's a lot of times where sometimes it's just simply a lack of having this line of communication open, where if we would just talk about it instead of just, kind of each going our own way and just kind of even what you were just saying, just staying in your own lane and thinking about your situation and how it affects you. If we were more open and have those lines of communication, we can make a huge difference and a positive impact.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're spot on. And again, we go through this at different levels. It's, it can be I think communication's probably the root of all of it, if we're going to be really honest. And we don't like to hear that because, again, it causes accountability, which again we can unpack a lot of cans in this season, but communication, accountability, expectations, grace, Christ-likeness. What keep just naming off cliche after cliche or label after label here that lead to this. I remember this keeps coming to mind, and this is one of those lower levels of hurt, but it's not a lower level for the person who's hurt. And I think we have to remember that whoever's feeling the hurt, that hurt could be the biggest thing they're going through. Yeah. And it could be as big as cancer, as you guys have been through, or it could be as little as this scenario that I want to share. I had somebody come into my office when I was a pastor. I guess I didn't give that caveat. I was a pastor as well for almost 13 years of my career, in my ministry. So I had a lady come into my office one day and she said, "Pastor, I'm really hurt by you for how you've been treating me." And I tried to listen to her. I tried to receive this criticism from her. And I said, well, ma'am, how have I hurt you? What have I done that has caused you to feel hurt? And she said, and she was using extremes because she was in her lane and in her blinders on, but it was the biggest hurt she was experiencing. And she said, Pastor, you shake everybody else's hand, but you don't shake my hand. And I've watched you go around to all these people and you'll talk to them and ask them about their day, but you don't come and talk to me. Which, as we continued to unpack this conversation, that wasn't true totally, but that was her perception based on what she was watching happen. Now, when she came to me that week in particular, the week before, she'd been in my office 3 times and we'd been helping her. So I knew what she was going on that week in her life. I knew what she was doing, but I hadn't talked to everybody else. Now, did I ever not shake her hand? No, that wasn't true either, but it led to more in different things. But that was the biggest thing for her, is because she had this perception of me that I was being unkind to her. Now, again, I apologized to her and I was, I did not want to cause hurt. And that's what you were saying earlier, Justin. I think it's important for us to realize that even if we're not in leadership, by us being in a church community, people expect us to have the fruit of Christ. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that not everybody in the church are saints. And we think there's so many times, especially in the Nazarene world, we think that the church is a museum for saints, when reality is it's a hospital for sinners. And we get that line blurred out because we have expectations of Christian perfection and all of these things that we're expecting Christ-likeness and fruit. I mean, even going through what we've gone through, we still expect that. We expect to see these things, but the reality of it is that we all need grace. As you said earlier, Heidi, I mean, we've all fallen short of the glory of God, and we need his forgiveness and we need his grace. But at the same time, when we're hurt and we don't feel like giving grace, is probably when we need to give grace the most. Because those same people that are hurting us because we're not seeing the fruit, or we're upset, or we're in our zone, we need to probably extend a little grace too. And that's hard because we're hurting and we want some attention and we need the medic. And yet we expect the person around us to be the medic when really it's not their job sometimes. We got to look to Jesus, and that's a good summation. I'm not going to end it there, but that's
I think one of my least favorite phrases it agitates me, is hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
It's honestly, I think we could just say that people hurt people. We could just say, but I just, because it feels like it's giving an excuse that
to say only the hurt people can hurt people.
Well, or that gives them a license to, they've got a reason.
Yeah.
Well, I think we all have a reason if we really take it back. And I know that's a phrase that we throw around a lot. I feel like it's become a
crutch.
Well, I just feel like it's been kind of like a buzz phrase. Like we've used it. It's trendy right now to say that, but and especially in this season, I'm like, but no, that doesn't give you a license to hurt somebody just because. And that goes back to what Becky's talking about too. Is that's where it's tough because it means we have to sometimes put our pride aside or step out of the fear that we're feeling, but communicate what it is. That can make such a huge difference. I tell my kids, one of the kindest thing you can do for someone that you love is to communicate well, to make the effort to communicate, because I mean, just like Becky was saying, that's where a lot of problems come in.
Yeah. And I think communication isn't just about having a conversation either. Mm-hmm. Communication, you have to be willing to sit in it, and you got to be willing to sometimes not say a word. Mm-hmm. But then it's how you receive that hurt. It's how you receive that communication. And sometimes we're not in the best place to receive it in the correct way at the time.
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons why people don't. We've talked about that, why people don't sit in it. I mean, I think there's fear. I think there's fear from a church perspective, from people who, still exist in a very legalistic way, that if we sit with this person, if we have this conversation, if we show any sort of empathy towards this, then maybe we're condoning what's happening, or we're going to give them some bad advice and we don't want to be responsible for that. Or, well, this is just too messy and we don't know what to say. Or this is really hard. This involves sickness or death and we don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And so it's just easier to not say something, or to walk away, or to ignore, or, whatever it may be.
Well, and that's something that we have commonality in too. I mean, what was your perspective? Like, you had mentioned this briefly, that like when you guys were first going through the cancer stuff and how there were so many people that rally around you right away. But how do you deal with those hurtful moments when the people that you thought were closest to you don't say anything, or they don't come to you? And I've had these conversations with you, Justin, a little bit to know kind of, but yeah, just answer that question. How does that feel when somebody chooses not to sit in your hurt with you?
Well, to me, like I might have a different not really a different perspective. I mean, I think as the spouse of somebody who's going through something like that, it can be really hard. I don't really know. I don't know.
So,
I mean, go ahead, Becky. I'm gonna let you.
What I would say is, number one, Justin is hands down one of the most amazing advocates on the planet. If I've always told people in the last couple of years, if you ever need someone to advocate for you, Justin is your guy, because he will go to the moon and back for you, whether you're deserving of it or not. That's just part of who he is. And kind of touching on a little bit of what we've talked about here and there. So in going through this journey that started out as cancer and then has led through multiple other illnesses and whatnot over the last several years, is that everybody has something. So I might be sitting there feeling terrible because I just went through chemo, and the next person sitting next to me, has a broken toe, and they're whining about their broken toe. And then they say to me, "Oh, Becky, I shouldn't be complaining to you with what you've got going on." And I always have to remind people, like, it's okay for you to have, like, to feel bad about things. You don't have to feel bad just because I feel bad. Like, you're allowed to have your own pain. Yeah, my pain might be gigantic, but that shouldn't lessen your pain.
I think some of the hurt, well, wherever you want to call it, label it, is that people, they don't want to come and talk to you about their things because they think yours is bigger than theirs. Or they distance themselves because they don't know how to manage it and have a conversation with you. It's like they feel like just because you had cancer or going through cancer or going through any situation that you can't have a normal conversation. It's just like they just shut down because they're like, I don't know, should I ask, should I not ask? And then they just kind of go through this thing, and then that starts to distance people. I mean, I think Becky would agree that this kind of starts distancing people away because they feel like they don't know what else to ask and talk about. And they just they're like, well, I guess we've just asked her or asked somebody about the situation for multiple years. It's probably not, nothing's changed, so.
And not so much that. I think that for a lot of people that in my recent experience is that my pain and all, whatever issue I have going on, they don't know how to handle it. So it's just easier to not handle it at all.
Mm-hmm. But does that bring hurt to you?
It does. It's hurtful.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know it's not intentional. Doesn't necessarily make it hurt less.
Right.
But at the same time, now I kind of lost where I was going with that. But
that hurt that comes when somebody's trying to, they don't know how to respond. They don't know how to react to you. They don't know how to come close when maybe they used to be close, or they don't even know how, like Justin was saying, to just be cordial and kind, because they just don't know what's the right thing to do. I remember talking to one of our friends about this when they had a death in the family, and people just don't know what to say sometimes. And I've heard families of people that are going through that grief stage saying, don't say the cliche stuff. Don't go through and say these one-liners that we're trained to think that it's going to make people feel good. It doesn't make people feel better. If you're going to try, just be yourself, and sometimes, and I don't know, maybe you guys have experienced this too. And I don't want to just focus solely on your situation, but there's those times when you're talking to somebody who's going through it that maybe you just want to take their mind off it and talk about something else. I know that was
absolutely.
one thing. Yeah, when you guys were going through your stuff there early on, I mean, I would check in with you, Becky, but I knew my purpose was I needed to check in with Justin and make sure he was okay too, and because I knew what he was going through as far as trying to manage everything and advocate and do all those things, where everybody's going to ask how Becky's doing, and they should. But I knew as Justin's friend, I needed to ask how Justin was doing. And that was my purpose in that season for you guys. That's how I felt anyway. Now, if I caused hurt for you, Becky, I'm sorry. I don't know
Nope,
that
not at all.
So, but yeah, it does cause us hurt, and in those places for sure. One of the things we say a lot is we can't expect ourselves out of other people. And it doesn't mean that we always have the right response or the right answer, but there's these places where it does bring hurt when we expect certain people to show up or to say something and they don't. Or you expect somebody to shut their mouth and they keep running it, So I think the opposite can be true as well. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We'll pause here for now, but this is just the beginning. Catch part 2 next week.